Hi guys, my name is Stephanie and I am back with another video. Today I'm going to be sharing the 11 pros and the 11 cons of having a house with a big backyard. So we've been here for 10 years, and if you've been daydreaming about having a house with a lot of land, here's the pros and cons of having a house with a big backyard. Let's start with the pros. The first pro is that you have tons of play space for your kids. So there's tons of opportunity for building swing sets, clubhouses, playhouses, trampolines, pools, anything and everything that you would want for your kids to have. There's tons of space for it when you have a big yard. And since they're in your yard, it feels like it's a safer space for your kids to be in anyway. The second pro for us is all of the wildlife that you get when you have a lot more space and a lot more trees for the wildlife to be living on the land with you. So we get to see tons of different kinds of birds, some deer, squirrels, raccoons, birds, lizards, turtles, frogs, like everything that you can imagine is on this land with us. We have about 4 acres here, and it's given us tons of opportunity to see wildlife around our house. Pro number 3 is that with the extra space, you get a chance to have donkeys, horses, chicken, goats, whatever sort of livestock that you have. If your neighborhood allows it, you have the space for it. And with all of that extra space for livestock, that means we also have space for things like barns, pool houses, guest houses. We even have a few car collectors in our neighborhood that have added extra large garages to store cars. Another pro of having a big backyard is that we can actually have our own burn pile here. So any limbs and leaves and debris that would normally have to be hauled away in a smaller yard, we can actually burn here and take care of it ourselves. I also do a lot of woodworking around here, so being able to burn offcuts of my wood, huge benefit. We love this. Another big pro is that we get tons of privacy. So you can see here that my neighbors' houses are pretty far away from us. They can't really see what's going on in our yard, and I can't really see what's going on in theirs. And it's a lot quieter, so I don't hear what's going on in their yard normally unless they're mowing their lawn, but I can't hear conversations. I don't hear fights. I don't hear things I don't really want to hear about my neighbors when I've got this big yard. Another big pro of a house with a big yard is that you usually have tons of space for parking too. So we can have huge parties here. Everybody in our family can come. There's tons of room for parking basically in our yard, and everybody can fit in our backyard, no problem. Another pro is that this is a great space for dog lovers, especially if you have a big dog. There is tons of space to run around and get all of that energy burned out that dogs always have. The last 2 pros of having a big backyard are sort of related. It's that you get extra curb appeal. When you have all of this greenery around your house, it adds curb appeal to any house. And the second one is the opportunity to have tons of trees. So we need the shade here in Texas. The trees look beautiful. So having all of these trees in our yard is definitely a bonus, and it's something that you normally wouldn't get in a regular neighborhood. Okay, now let's move into the cons or the negatives of having a big backyard. First up is all of the extra lawn care. So it takes my husband about an hour, even on this riding lawnmower, to mow each acre and weed whack any of the areas that he needs to weed whack. So for 4 acres, that's 4 hours worth of work he has to do every week or two for like 8 months of the year. Because we're in Texas, our grass grows most of the year. Another con of having a house with a big yard is taking care of all of the trees on our land. So if one of them dies, we either have to pay a lot of money to have it cut down or cut it down ourselves. And every year, the 40 plus trees that are in our yard need trimming so that the limbs don't get too close to the ground. A third con on top of all the lawn and tree care is just landscaping in general. So if you need to fill the huge amount of flower beds that we have with plants, it's going to cost you a lot of money. If you hire landscapers to do it, it's going to cost you a lot more than that. So landscaping for the flower beds can be quite pricey. Hiring mowers can be quite pricey. And I spend about an hour to 2 hours every week, especially during the summer, weeding our flower beds. So we have tons of flower beds, front yard, backyard, both side yards. It takes a lot of work. Another big con with having a big yard is that if something goes wrong with your driveway or the driveway wears out over time, you have a lot more driveway that you have to repair or pay for to replace. We've had a bunch of cracks in our driveway since we moved in about 11 years ago. It's not bad enough for me to replace, but I can see it happening one day. Another big expense that comes with having a big yard is if you have fences, they have to be maintained, replaced, repaired. We've replaced every bit of fencing in this yard since we moved in 11 years ago, and we've also had to replace the gates. So that was an extra expense that we didn't think about when we bought this house, but we've definitely had to pay a lot of money to keep this fence looking nice. Another big con of having a yard this big is that we don't have that many neighbors nearby. And since we don't have that many neighbors nearby, we haven't had any neighbors ever that have had little boys the same age as our little boys nearby. so they don't get the chance to go wander down to the neighbor's house and play outside with other kids. It's nice having all of these animals near us, but it would have been fun for my boys, I think, to have neighbors that they can always go say hi to. Another con is how quickly the curb appeal can turn negative on your house if something is run down, like the fence needs to be painted, or the driveway is really dirty, or the landscaping needs work. It becomes the only thing that you can see when you look at our house, so even if the house looks nice, the curb appeal can be bad. You can kind of sum up a lot of those cons that I've already said into another bigger con, which is bigger yards mean a lot more maintenance, a lot more work is required, and a lot more of your time is going to be spent either paying somebody else to do that maintenance or doing the maintenance work yourself. So that is a definite con, all of the time you have to spend on maintenance. Another con was also a positive, and that is the wildlife. So I love this little raccoon. He doesn't bother me at all, but if I was going to put my garbage out at night, that would be a big mistake. We've also got wild coyote, wild dogs, and boars possibly around here. Another con is that you have to take care of pests for a bigger area when your yard is bigger. So if you look at this video, there's a bunch of little brown mounds all around the yard at this time. Those are fire ant mounds, and normally we stay on top of them, but during this time frame, for some reason, we have a bunch of them in our field, and they can be expensive and time-consuming to take care of. Depending on what part of the country you're in, you're going to have whatever pest that you normally battle. It'll be a lot more for a bigger yard. The last con of having a house with a bigger yard is also the most expensive, especially in our area. In Texas, we don't pay income taxes, but that doesn't mean we're actually saving money because we have huge property taxes here. So we're paying over $1,000 per month on property taxes for this yard for 4 acres and the house that's on it. That's a lot more than you would pay, especially in somewhere like Ohio where I grew up. So be sure to check out the property taxes and all of the extra expenses that might come along with that big yard before you buy that dream home. That's it for the pros and cons of having a house with a big yard. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. I do try to answer them when I get a chance. Or if you want to add your pros and cons, I'd love to hear them too. Put those in the comments. All right, bye guys.